I'm Nick Delaney, musician, composer, performer based in Melbourne, Australia. And I recently undertook the Artist in Residence program at Melbourne Polytechnic, which is a government funded course that's designed to give the students something different to interact with apart from their sort of core course subjects, I guess. And yeah, basically the process started with me presenting a 2-hour workshop at the NMIT campus, or sorry, Polytechnic campus. What that really entailed was me showcasing a lot of what I do compositionally and how I approach writing the music that I've been writing recently. And the main goal of that workshop was to garner interest from students to come and do regular workshops or ensemble work with me during the semester. None of the work that I did was credited towards their degree, so everything that they were doing was purely out of self-interest and exploration. The first thing I did was with a student, Kier. He wrote a bunch of stuff and we just performed like a trio, where it was him playing guitar, me playing bass and another student playing drums. That was a good tune. The guy, Kier, basically wrote that around some broad concepts that he'd been toying with in his head, and we sort of put them to test and actually put them on paper and tested things out, see what they sound like. Then the second piece, I believe, was with the other students, the other ensemble that got up, and we performed a tune that was entirely written by the students based on some number systems that I presented to them. And that involved, I think, 2 guitar players, Tim and David, a bass player, Paul, myself playing a little bit of bass too. We had a drummer, Julia, and we also had a keyboard player / vocalist, Justin. So they all sort of came in, played their parts, did a little bit of an improvisation over a section, and then came back and played the parts. So that turned out really well. It was a good exercise in just exploring different ways to write music. The next tune we did, so I believe we did a version of Sissy Strut, which is an old sort of funk standard. And I'd just taken that through some modulating keys because it's essentially a vamp-based tune. And I'd heard someone, I think maybe John Schofield, did a version where he migrated to a new tonal centre for this B section. I kind of liked that, but I thought I'd keep that going, so I developed a system that just took it through about 6 keys or something from memory, and got the guys to solo over that. So it was just more of an investment in trying to get them to look at soloing over different tonality changes and stuff like that. Played a tune called Deadpan, which is a tune I wrote years and years and years ago, which I now use in a band called Labjacked, which is a Melbourne working band. Abject is an entirely different thing. That's a band that's been working for 20 plus years in Melbourne, and I only hooked up with the guys about 2.5 years ago and joined, and presented a tune that I'd actually written for an old band of mine called 12 Tone Diamonds, which is a really old jazz sort of fusion band from the heyday of Melbourne. Reworked the tune, brought it to the guys, the MCs put a couple of raps over the top of it, and there we go, nice new tune. So very different type of stuff, but using similar concepts for writing. One of the number and rhythmical concepts were the genesis of these songs, and then they got fleshed out into proper tunes. Cardinal is a project that I started myself about 6 years ago. It's a sort of progressive instrumental metal project. The Artist in Residence program's a brilliant program because it gets students, I guess, an opportunity to make contact with someone that they might not normally be able to make contact with. So someone who isn't like a regular teacher at an institution, they can come in, do their very specialist work for a semester, and the students can just absorb as much as they can, and then the idea is to hopefully bring that back into their own creativity and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea, and my experience was pretty good. Like, I worked with these students, they seemed to have good feedback about it. The staff that I talked to about it had good feedback about it. So I got a lot out of it. You know, I sort of had to come up with these workshops and present material for set amounts of time. Had to work with large groups of varying skill sets, which was very, very challenging, but really good. And I'm sure the students got a lot out of it too. So I guess it's a win-win for everybody. You know, the institution gets more notoriety because it's doing work with the community, the students get to make more contact, artists get to have different experiences and different avenues for income streams, so hey, that's all a pretty good one as well. So yeah, overall I think it's a really positive kind of project.